hello everyone at the beginning when there's no one there. It takes a while to trickle in. But this week we have Joe, who's been kind enough to come and sit. Seeing how the lighting is. Sort of. Oh, right, okay. I've judged from the other monitor. Graham's head's in the light. I think it's pretty good. It's all good, pretty good. Yeah, fairly happy with that. Last week I did fairly conventional portrait. This week I want to do something a bit more interesting, a bit more of an in-depth sort of head study, which means you can relax about your hands, unless you want to hold on to your chin like a Vogue model.
No, I think.
I felt I wasn't adventurous enough last week, but different types of responsibilities, aren't there? I feel like Joe is just genuinely interested to see what comes out. Oh. The cat's found your coat.
Oh, well. Probably smells dog in it. Yeah.
Yeah, ripping noises.
Yeah, will do.
Straight in there. Good stuff. But I will start off in a very conventional way. Approach with just a bit of thin inky paint. I know we're not going to have a problem with we're not going to run out of things to talk about tonight.
Oh gosh, no. Dribble free.
So you say you've had a portrait done once before, Joe. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, like 15 years ago, taught at school, and one of my sixth form duties for an A-level project did 6 portraits of favourite members of staff. Somehow or other, I was one of them.
So which school was that?
It was a boarding school between Blandford and Shaftesbury, called Claysmore.
Ah, amazing. And how long were you over there?
I was there for 10 years. Yeah, which is great. She's now a professional artist. She's an artist, but she also runs. I was saying she runs this gallery in Bristol, and she's got an opening on Thursday, which I'm going to go to, which is a mixture of her work and other First Nation Australian artists.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's just really. Yeah, she's just a really, really lovely girl. And when you teach, you have hundreds of children come through you in 10 years, but you connect with. You want to connect with all of them. You connect with a number of them. And it's just really interesting. Bump into them afterwards to see how they go. And she's just so beautiful. You like to think that they all turn into really nice people. It's wonderful if you actually see the evidence in front of you.
So what was your subject? What were you teaching?
I taught RS. That's amazing. That's my face already. I mean, it's extraordinary. I'm sorry, being able to watch the painter, the artist, what the work. Not like Portrait Artist of the Year, where you get the reveal at the end. This way, I can see it all the way through. I mean, that's my face.
Sounds more worrying if somebody else's sit.
It is a funny thing. You sometimes someone has a face that is only one mistake away from being recognisable as someone else's face. And I once did a pencil sketch of Pete Morton at a recording session, and made it look like Jeremy Clarkson. It's a really good picture of Jeremy Clarkson. But yeah, Pete's quite left wing, and so that wasn't the best choice of mistake to make. Yeah, some interesting things to find. So I'm just going to have a little wander around.
So prior to Claysmore, where were you?
I was a parish priest. I mean, I've been a priest most of my life, but I had a group of parishes just around the north of Sherborne, which so for Oborne, Poyntington, Sanford, Orcus, Overcampton, Nethercampton, and Trent.
There must be some really lovely places to look after.
They are some really lovely places to look after, but sometimes you think that there's nothing more unchristian than a Christian community. I mean, the ability to be really quite nasty is extraordinary.
That's one of the reasons to have organised religion.
But it's an area where people can focus their bile.
Well, the thing is, human beings would just be like that.
Yeah.
If they,
And the parish priest is somebody who they can sort of focus their frustrations, their anger, their whatever. And so you'd have to be a receptacle. It's part of the deal that you know that you're just going to receive a lot of stuff comes your way.
Can I ask you what took you down the religious journey? Was there a moment?
Well, when I'm being flippant, I call it my genetic disorder. Because my father's family is riddled with clergy, generations of Welsh clergy. Some of the first monoglot ordained Edwards. The others were all predecessors, were all the Welsh speakers. My grandfather was determined that his sons would not speak Welsh. He saw it as a hindrance. So they grew up in North Wales, in a very Welsh-speaking area. Nobody was allowed to speak Welsh to the Edwards boys. It's a shame, because my father, I think, really regretted it. Because when he read Welsh, he sounded Welsh. He had the musicality to say it was all there, but he just had none of the language because he'd be barred. And if he'd been a Welsh speaker, he would have spoken Welsh to us.
Okay.
We would have been brought up bilingual. So I feel quite sort of sad about that, the second generation.
And you didn't take it upon yourself to try and learn Welsh yourself?
If I'd learned it from the cradle, yes, but I'm terrible with languages. I have no musicality in my ears at all.
And so, yeah, the having a family that was all with.
Yeah, and so when it came to sort of thinking about, what's life all about, you've got that religious framework, those stories, that way of seeing the world, and it seemed to work. I'm not a very, not a great sort of doctrinaire Christian. I don't go a bundle on the veracity of all the stories. That's not what's important. It's what the meaning of the stories and what they point to. So I'm pretty much, I'm sort of, most of the time I think I'm a Christian. Not all the time. But I like, that's it being on the edge. I can't stand certainty in any guise. Because I think the only thing you know if you're certain is that you're probably wrong.
Socrates. Yeah.
He did have something like this, I did, yeah. I love living in the grey. We all do, and if we can't accept the grey, so I think that the anthem for the United Nations should be that Monkey's B-side called Shades of Grey. After all, there is no black or white, only shades of grey. I think the world could accept that.
Personally, Sunday would be good as well. Just
Yeah.
a bit off topic.
Yeah, but I just love that. Well, the shades of grey, and now with social media, everything's polarized. If you're trying to do politics, 240 characters, or whatever it is you're allowed on X, it polarizes, and so compromise and negotiation is seen as a crime, whereas actually it's the bedrock of a functioning society.
So, Steve, say evening all. Steve Henderson.
Oh, I see.
It is like magic watching the kid. I mean, it really is like magic.
I am quite familiar with the whole magician thing as far as I think it's the archetype I identify with, so probably helps with art and stuff like that. Yeah. Some people would have me leave it there.
I could put that on my wall in a bit.
No, I've got to ruin it first.
I mean, one of the reasons I have such trouble drawing is you don't have an interesting mental quirk. Have you ever heard of a thing called aphantasia?
Oh yes, that's a very interesting thing.
I have aphantasia.
I don't think people studying that or making it actually know what they're doing, man.
What?
I don't think it's properly understood. I think if you ask someone who doesn't have a visual imagination, whether they can sort of imagine a thing, I think they'll say yes a lot of the time.
Because that's also, I mean, it was in my world. It was for years. But, you know, I in my line, you go on retreats, and when you're going on a guided retreat or meditation, you know, there's imagine you're sitting by a lake, or imagine you're sitting on a mountainside. What do you see? And I'd sit there thinking, I can't see anything.
But what it can't do is calibrate it against the intensity of direct experience. And I think a lot of people don't have a lot of direct experience.
But then I when I discovered it, because I only from listening to All in the Mind on Radio 4, the next retreat I went on, I knew it was a Franciscan friar from Hillfield down near St. Abbott's, and I rang out Brother Sam and said, look, you know, you always want to try and be inclusive but not exclude anybody. He said, you know, how about this one? And he said probably about 6 or 7% have it to one degree or another. So can I leave it with you, Sam? And he said, yeah. And when I got there, it was brilliant. He said, how do you feel when you sit by a mountain lake? Easy. I can connect with that.
Yeah.
I've got feelings. I don't have to see it. I know what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly that completely, you know, it just completely transformed how I remember. So if I go to a film or if I go to the theatre, I can't recreate what I saw in my head.
But can anyone?
Well, I don't know.
And are the people who are saying they can actually recreating what's a far more limited experience than the one you had when you were there? You see what I mean? There's nothing to calibrate.
Yeah, no, you can't calibrate. But there's some people who just have some vivid memory. You know, but so I just remember how I felt, and that is absolutely all I need.
So that's similar in the sense of if, say you're going to redecorate a room, you can't see what it's going to look like, whereas some people can.
Yeah, or you know, I mean, I've been with my wife, and she's bought a cushion. She said that's exactly the right colour for somewhere in the house. Is it? Okay. And you get home, you know, blow me, yes it is. I mean, it seemed like magic. And then actually I was watching Graham Norton, and they had, what's he called, Pharrell Williams,
Yeah.
on Graham Norton, and he's got synesthesia. Very, very, and he was saying that he's very, very vivid with noise and particular music. And so when they had Michael Kwayanuki, you know, who's a sort of, anyway, singer, when he came back, he said, oh, that was all pink and yellow.
Oh, well.
You know, he just had, you know, just bang, it's just colours. And my mother had it. And I remember she said, well, of course, the number 7's blue. What else could it be? You know, so she would remember numbers by colour patterns.
See, I think this is just a thing the human brain does.
Yeah.
That, you know, you experience flavours. What you haven't done is sort of created a crossover between that and, say, the sensation of a colour or a timbre of sound. But if you were to, it's the same bit of your brain doing it. The same bit of your brain is liking strawberries. It's liking a D major chord, but it's separating the two, it's compartmentalising, and that's what the human brain does, which is the biggest lie. And that's why I don't think you can trust the aphantasia thing, because if someone's direct experience is one of labeling things, which is the reason most people can't draw, for example, because they're so quick and efficient at labeling something that what it actually is doesn't get a look in. It's what it represents. Does that make sense? Well, I always use the example of if I said the word apple, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We have this shared language. But the language doesn't say what kind of apples. The apple you're imagining
Yeah, it's not really.
is very different. So your favourite's a Granny Smith, and I was thinking of a crab apple. And they're utterly different things. So you need this extra layer of distinction. But we need to compartmentalise and label things in order to function.
Just makes sense. You've got to make sense. Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd be here for 6 hours describing the apple I was thinking of to you, and we wouldn't get anywhere.
So absolutely, you've got to.
And I think human beings are so good at making those labels that it's hard to know when you're talking about the mismatch between experience and recalled memory, how much of that experience is surviving. So
Well, when I talk about aphantasia, I mean, all I can say is that people tell me what they experience when they're with their internal imagery. And if I say to somebody, think of, Kemi Badendorf, and you've got a picture of Kemi Badendorf, you've got to tell them what colour shirt she's wearing. Your image of the picture you've got of Kemi Badendorf.
Well, I can invent a colour for it.
Well, if you see it, but when you see her in your head, you've got a
But
picture.
am I really seeing that colour?
Well,
Or am I just accessing the bit of my brain that
you see,
feels...
I've got no picture
what
of
it
Kemi
feels
Badendorf in my head at all. Nothing.
Right.
But I just know I would recognise her when I saw her.
I guess that's the thing. I mean, there's lots of layers to this. Another
Yeah.
one is face blindness. Quite a few people have a thing called face blindness. Oliver Sacks was a good example, and he was the sort of person who could actually sort of test it and research it, because he was a neuroscientist. But yeah, that thing of he could have been, obviously people. It doesn't really happen, but if someone had wanted to play a trick on it, they could have had you chat to him. And then you could have left the room. They could have got someone similar height, same glasses, wearing the same jumper, and sat down. He wouldn't have known it wasn't you until you spoke, because as long as all that, and that's the thing. So those labels like hairstyle, glasses,
All those,
jumper,
yeah,
all that stuff. And so our model of reality is actually built on very tenuous foundations, and we trust it so much because we need to, but it's barely real. And so this idea of the value of how much you can recreate that intensity of experience in your own mind when you close your eyes, I think is an odd one. Because what if you were to say, well, I can imagine sitting by a lake, but I can't imagine what it feels like. I'd have to actually be there. Yeah, you can think of what it feels like.
Yeah,
I
mean, but it's just
That's what
that's what Pharrell Williams was saying.
Yeah.
We're all wired differently, and and
it's a fascinating thing that you're touching on there, because it's in what this represents, and I think this comes across a lot of modern chat about neurodiversity and stuff like that, is that I think we're finally getting the idea that everybody works very different.
yeah.
But
one of the ways that
I can't butt in, still go.
Alexander's just piped up and said, I always picture Kenny Bednock in hell. Fantastic. Steve Henderson says, that's my face, job done, 20-minute monochrome painting incoming. Brilliant. And Josie said, hi, just got here, great to see us.
Hi, Josie.
Can they hear?
Yeah.
Got it. Hi, Alexander. Usually, when I talk about aphantasia, one way that it represents that I really struggle is if I get an IKEA flat pack, I really struggle putting it together because I count it all out. I'm the person who reads all the instructions, but then when I look at the picture and then I pick up the pieces, I've got nothing in my head to guide me. Whereas I think other people could probably sort of visualize how they all fit together.
Yeah.
And so I really struggle putting them together. Always going backwards.
So not the person to give a call to if we need some flat pack furniture.
No.
But it's together.
It is a thing. I think the reason I'm a bit excited about this subject matter is because I don't know where I stand on the whole thing. I think I heard that Radio 4 program when it came out. What was really interesting is there was a chap from Pixar, who turned out that had it, was supposedly aphantasic, and I thought, well, this is someone involved in visual storytelling and art who's massively successful at it. So, just how bad can they be? And it made me think that actually the description of what it is so nebulous that it's really fun because you get all there's loads more digging to be done.
Absolutely, and I remember I shared a house at university with a friend, and he had the most vivid dream world. And he'd come down every morning. He had the most clear accounts of what he'd got up to. He'd been a gaucho in Argentina one night, or the next night he'd be, and it was so vivid. And I now realise that when I dream, I don't dream in pictures. All I dream is in motions. And the only dreams I remember, generally speaking, are ones where I'm scared and I'm being chased. I don't know where I am, I don't know who's chasing me or what's going on. I just know I'm scared.
But again, that's the feeling part, isn't it?
I think that's really powerful. That's far more meaningful to me than the aphantasia thing.
Well, but then it's really, really frightening because you really are frightened because you've got no idea what it is you're up against. But then and so some, when people say, "Oh, you always dream," I do. I obviously do dream, but not in pictures. But now I've got that plugged into feelings. Suddenly, I've really got into because my wife is very musical. The sang in choirs all her life and things, and she sang in the chorus of Dorset Opera for 7 or 8 years, and she really loves opera. And I always used to struggle with opera because, I can't remember the tunes, I can't remember what I've seen, but suddenly I just go and I just get swept along by the storytelling and the power and I just remember the emotions. I mean, we saw Madame Butterfly this year, and it was fabulous. And it's really, it's just an appallingly sad, sort of diatribe, anti-imperialist diatribe. It's extraordinary, for 1920s, about, the malign influence of European patriarchy abusing women in the in the colonial world, and it was really, really sad. And I just and the singer portraying Butterfly was so good. I mean, her voice was fabulous, but she just, the sort of despair. So suddenly, I couldn't tell you. You could play me 6 tunes and say one of them came from Butterfly. No, couldn't tell you. But I don't need to worry about that now. But it's like with birds and nature. I've got no interest in knowing their names because I can't remember them because I don't know what a cuckoo looks like. But when I see a bird fly, I just really engage with the birdiness of that bird in that moment, whatever it is.
Birdiness.
Yeah, but just live in that moment of just enjoy. I don't need to know the name. It won't increase my enjoyment of that moment.
There's a question as well as to if sort of visual aspects aren't something that you can fathom and you can conjure up, does that mean that your other senses then are heightened because of it? So therefore the dreams that you are having, and you say you wake up and you're dreadfully frightened or dreadfully scared but you had no idea as to what was chasing you, is that because that's a heightened sense based on not having or having one of them removed?
But you see, I only remember the dreams. I only know I've dreamt when I wake up with that sense of terror. So I mean, if they say you dream every night, they just pass me by.
You don't remember your dreams when you wake up?
I've got nothing. Or occasionally, if I've got one of these frightening ones, I'll wake up feeling frightened. But that's all. No dreams, nothing.
Oh, slightly worrying.
Yeah, there's nothing. But then I've got a very strange brain because at theological college, there's an expectation that clergy can sing. And I had singing lessons every week for 3 years with a really lovely woman called Lorna. And she was absolutely delightful. And all my sort of colleagues were being taught to sing better. Whereas with me, she was trying to get me just to sing tune. And she was really lovely, had a fantastic sense of humour. And she wrote as my final report, Joe has nice tone. He can sometimes hit the note, but he never knows when. So I'm the sort of I'm the Eric Morecambe of all the notes were never in the right order.
That's the definition of tone deafness. It's not whether or not you're singing in tune; it's whether you know.
Yeah, I don't know, but I can recognise tunes. I can't recreate them, but I can recognise them. Back in the days when I think because of compensation is my memory is quite good, and I was quite good at sort of beat the intro, that sort of thing.
Oh, well.
Back in the day when I was familiar with.
And they were playing your favourite songs from the hit break.
Well, when you knew what was going on in the world of contemporary music. No. I mean, I literally wouldn't recognise an Ed Sheeran or an Adele song if you got up and picked me on the bar. I just would not know what this. I've got no concept of what they sound like.
I have a strange pride in that with certain things. Not so much Ed Sheeran and Adele. I've got no reason to be wary of that. But I've managed to anything where there's hype around someone, I try to avoid it and go. I figure the good stuff will sort of creep into culture long term, and I'll get around to it eventually.
It's like novels. I stopped reading contemporary novels.
Yeah.
I wait for the filter of time.
Exactly that, and as a result, I think I've managed to never ever hear a. Oh God, I can't remember his name now. He was a very. It was early days of YouTube, but he got very famous, like a teenage lad singer. I've got that's hopeless, isn't it? It's going nowhere.
Teenage lad singer, right?
And he was in the news the whole time. It was like the centre of everything after a while. He went like super. Who's a super famous pop singer from the early noughties from America? Skinny lad.
Oh, Bieber.
Yes, that's it. I've never heard of Justin Bieber song. As far as I know, I'm sure there's been one in the background.
Oh yeah, we would have heard them,
But
but
I
you won't
haven't-
go, that's Justin Bieber.
Absolutely no means of identifying it.
So it's not because I've got anything against them. It's just,
No,
it's just
exactly.
It's not on your radar.
not on my radar. And it's in my radar. I like guitar bands. That's simple. And my brother, who's a photographer, well, now he's retired. Now he's stopped working. He's sort of re-engaged with his passion for photography. And one of these, because he's never really grown up, he loves knocking around the world of musicians. And he's found this sort of scene in London of youngsters in basically sort of indie rock guitar bands. He said there's a really, really vibrant scene, and these bands are really good, but they'll never get anywhere because they just don't fit the current model.
Yeah, it's the trends that are happening at the time.
But he said it's really brilliant fun, and I'm trying to persuade him to let me come up on one because I just love it. He was sweating.
There's from what I read, the whole reason that Bieber actually got quite big on YouTube was because he was tagging his videos to have the hashtags of sort of kittens and cats, and because that's what everybody was searching for.
Okay.
And it was right at the time when sort of those hashtags were becoming like a trend in themselves.
They were new on the
and
scene.
then people were stumbling across him and liking it and then sort of sticking around for the music.
He couldn't have got away with being too terrible, though, could he?
And also, Alexander's just picking you up on that. James, he's Canadian, not American.
Okay.
Oh, that game. You used to play, can you name a famous Canadian? It's like, can you name a famous Belgian?
Yes.
Apart from
Hercule Poirot, who wasn't
Hercule Poirot and Tintin.
Yeah. Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah. It's they're great. That used to be a great a great pub game.
I just liked the South Park bit when they talked about Bryan Adams, and it was something to do with they were talking to the Canadian embassy, and they said, "Now look here, we've apologised for Bryan Adams on many occasions." So you've done quite a bit of travel, speaking of all the sort of different countries, haven't you, Joe?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've never had jet lag, so I've never been east and I've never been west.
Okay.
I've only been south. I've been quite a long way south quite a few times, but so that's basically Europe and Africa. I love Africa.
And whereabouts did you go?
Well, I had a very, very disreputable gap here in southern Africa. A long time ago, 1975. The friend I went out to stay with, I mean, he went out about a month before I did. He was my oldest mate around here. And dear old Mike. I said, if you could put Mike on planet Zog, and within 10 minutes he'd have found the dealer.
That's that explains the the time that he had.
But in the month that he was there in South Africa before, he managed to commit an offence that eventually ended up with him being arrested and locked up in John Forster Square. So I lost my travelling companion, which meant actually I had a lot more interesting times because I hitched sort of nearly 25,000 miles.
Oh wow!
On my own, and if there were two of you, you wouldn't have got the same welcome and sort of reception into people's homes. It was just fantastic.
Yeah, so what took you out there in the first place?
Well, Mike was going to go out there anyway because he just. I thought I'll tag along. And my mum was really upset. She thought it was going to be terrible. It could have been.
Well, you didn't end up in a prison, so.
No, I didn't end up in prison, but I could have done all sorts of things. But,
how long were you travelling for?
So, but we were going to work. Yeah, am I allowed to say this on? Being recorded for posterity. By the time we got there, Mike decided that we were going to get a job in stores and just work in Johannesburg. And he cracked this plan where we didn't need to work to pay for our travel.
I love the fact that I can hear your cogs ticking in your brain as to whether you should tell the story.
Well, okay, I'm not ashamed. And so we went into one of the townships and we bought 2 arms of grass, which is you wrap newspaper around your forearm and fill it with grass. And you bring it in and then you sell it in European South Africa, actually to the students of Witwatersrand University, in fingers. So you can imagine the scope for markup. And 2 arms, but I tell you, one of the most terrifying experiences of my life was coming back into Johannesburg from the township. I had this horrible old-fashioned, army greatcoat from the Second World War, and I had 2 arms in my pockets. I just was terrified. Picked up.
That's a good job. You chose quite an inconspicuous coat at the time.
Yeah. Anyway, so dear old Mike got left behind. I went off, and it was extraordinary, because I got up from South Africa. I couldn't get into. They wouldn't let me into Zambia because I tried to get into Zambia from Botswana, but they wouldn't take me because I'd been in South Africa. So I did Rhodesia, as it was, and Mozambique. The day after they opened the borders after their independence. That was entertaining. roadblocks, very, very drunk, very, very stoned. Frelimo gorillas. They asked. I was travelling in a car with a travelling salesman who was in there looking for opportunities to buy and sell. And we got to this roadblock, and there were these three very happy gorillas, but very drunk, very stoned, wanted to be taken. And they climbed into the back seat of the car, and I was there in the passenger seat with the guy driving. It was only about 45 miles off the direct route. And we thought, well, at least we'll get to go to the party, because they'll be welcome home back in the village as heroes. But no. We took them there, and then they just chucked. Then we no, go away. But as we were driving across, they were shooting trees and things out of the back window. They were there because they had their AK-47s and were just firing at anything.
So how old were you when you were doing the travel with them?
It was a long time to world. But it's fantastic because, just going, just, I loved it.
And so from that trip, you're out there for 4 months. You came back, and then was that when you then went to university or
University, and then I went to London and had various, just sort of trying to find something to do, and then eventually ended up starting a company with a friend where we moved and hung oil paintings. Little niche market, but my brother was a picture restorer, so we got into that world through him.
Mm-hmm.
And Phil's still going all these years later. He's given up the moving, and he just does the hanging. And occasionally I get, he rings up and says, "You fancy a couple of days' work, Jim?" And we go off and we hang pictures. The other day I really sad I couldn't do it because he was rehanging the Sir John Soane Museum in Lincoln's Inn Fields, which, have you ever been there? It's fantastic. And what it's really famous for is it's got two of the big Hogarth series, The Election of a Member and The Rake's Progress.
Ah, okay.
I mean, that's serious pictures. And to rehang them would have just been, just touching. It's very physical and visceral just hanging a picture because you're that close to it.
You give me a hand on Tuesdays.
What, you hang pictures?
Well, I put it on downstairs. It's not quite the same, man. It's no mirror plates. Right?
But Phil, And we went to do. Well, I helped him with it. Where the guy, he was unbelievably, wealthy. He was called. He wasn't Rothschild, but he was one of that sort of that scale. And he bought a new picture, a really lovely 17th century family, sort of family group. That sort of 17th century style was very formal, quite with a dark background. The figures in black, wearing black and white clothes, probably sort of very sort of Protestant. And it was a big, sort of 5 foot across. And he wanted it in the hall at the bottom of the stairs. And so every picture then had to be moved one place back up. And on the staircase, we had to hang a full-length 18th century portrait with a big sort of 9-inch oak frame. And so the canvas was probably 8 feet high. And it was, weighing it tough. Getting it up the stairs, Very
interesting.
You're going to stop there now?
What's the time?
22.
Okay, I've got a bit of time. I'm just having a pause.
Josie has said she's loving the palette.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
It's quite interesting. You put colour on a lot sooner than you have done in previous.
yeah. I suppose it was ready. I mean, the drawing sort of landed in about 30 seconds, didn't it? So.
You've got my head. Almost. I mean, the first mark you made, and I was there.
Mm.
And the extraordinary thing was, you even had the bar of the spectacle.
Well, glasses can be a great help. because they're a predictable structure. Wraparound shades, less so.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Is people have wraparound faces, so that's difficult. So a slight change in angle can make a big difference in shapes you can see. But glasses will always have this sort of.
Will this film be does it live online?
Hmm.
Oh, so I can go back and show my wife.
Oh, of course.
She is a. I mean, she's a great lover of the arts, and you know.
If you find James's YouTube channel, all of them are on there.
I'll make a note. Yeah, she's a great. She's the one who sort of opened my eyes to the idea of being slightly more adventurous. What counts as art.
But yeah, now I am going to have to sort of invent some colours, I think, to really get this to work.
Great. Could you just? That's a tough. Yeah, I just love it's absolutely fascinating watching it come out of this thing, just come out of a canvas. Is that canvas or is it a board?
It is a canvas. It's a canvas panel,
Right.
so it's glued to a board, so it's a hard surface. But it's actually canvas on it, so you get that tooth and texture. Yeah, this is going to be very interesting. There's a lot of subtleties. Just reverse down here. And I want to get some accent colours in as well. That's going to be quite interesting. I don't know what point to do that.
Can't help it.
Oh no, I'm speaking to the room generally. Yeah, and part of this is this mood colours. There's colours which are kind of, well, it's a bit like you're saying about the synesthesia thing. You could, if someone asked you to, name a mood, for example, like, what colour would you give that mood? It's a nonsensical question, but it's one you can answer.
Well, some people could.
Well, the thing is, there's cultural conventions. What colour is anger? It's always red, isn't it? We wouldn't go, oh, a kind of serene blue colour. In fact, the idea of blue means serene. Azure. We've got these associations.
But they're cultural. I wonder what if you went around the world whether anger would always be red.
Well, I think so, because it all comes down to nature, doesn't it? The red is the colour of blood. So if your cheeks flush with blood, you go redder. Same with passion, generally.
But then if you've got a much darker face, I mean, it'd just be an interesting one. We're going to assume.
Oh, yeah, you get
we're making,
subtleties.
so we're making an assumption.
Red is a colour of good fortune and money in China. There's different. This is the thing. It's partly a cultural thing, but that culture evolved from a fairly simple natural world that everyone shared. So green is a calming colour. Because if everything's green, you're probably all right. Generally speaking. But maybe in a jungle country, it's not quite the same. Maybe it represents a certain amount of threat.
Yeah, because if you're living in a jungle.
Because in a jungle, this could be all sorts of dangers. But if you're in a wooded glade.
But I find it extraordinary that the sort of foundational myths across the world have so many common aspects.
Oh yeah. Well,
Floods and mysterious births and dangers in childhood, and there's no body left at the end. You can find those sort of tropes in around the whole world.
Yeah.
From
I find that very interesting.
And how does that happen?
Well, it's. I think it's and this is where the art's come in as well. It's human. We understand things as patterns. And pattern plus time equals a story. And the things that don't fit into the pattern are things that get our attention. So there's certain things that will get the attention of our more primitive brain. And it will be things that are attractive, so things we find appealing, either, like the opposite sex, or like something you want to look after, like a possession, or So in advertising, it's always beautiful people or babies or puppies, or you know what I mean. So that's one thing that gets our attention. Something which is a threat will get our attention. So the newspapers are always just full of fear mongering, because you're going to get your attention that way. You can't switch your brain off. You can't go, oh, I don't care about that. You know, you go, oh, what's just going to do tomorrow?
It's just the way that across the globe, from pre-literate societies, there are these common.
So those are fundamental. But the third one, this is what's really interesting. The third thing that will get your attention is the thing that isn't meant to be there, and it's the break in the pattern. And I think that also turns up with art. Certainly turns up with music. An interesting melody is one with a surprise. If it just goes up and down a major scale, you go, nothing's happening. But when there's that note you weren't expecting, and you were led to expect one thing and you got another, or a twist in a tale. And so the stories are, I know there's certainly tropes that get used again and again. My favourite one from the sort of the Greek, and I suppose it goes back to Samaria, but it turns up in the Bible, pillar of salt. Like someone dies in the desert and you find they're all white crusted. So that pillar of salt thing comes from that region of the world.
And the flood.
The big ones.
And because of the emergence of literacy, of writing in Sumeria, when it did it, so they've got the first recorded stories, and we went to see Simon Armitage talking in the Oval last week.
Oh right.
Because I particularly love his translations, but I did his poetry as well, and he. And I asked him if he was doing interviews, got any other translations on the go. And he said he's working on one at the moment, which he thinks will be the last one, which is the story of Gilgamesh.
I was going to say, is it Gilgamesh?
Yeah, and
it's the original story.
It is. It's the original story.
First hero's journey, as far as
that. Hercules, Jesus. There's so many, and then you can go into China, you can go into Australia. Those first hero stories that have so many aspects in common.
So are you familiar with Joseph Campbell?
Joseph Campbell.
He was an academic who took a great interest in. He coined the idea of the hero's journey. He sort of formalised it to a certain extent, and it's turned up a lot. I suppose he became quite well known because he ended up sort of well known by a lot of Hollywood scriptwriters and people like that. But he sort of dismantled the epic stories into their component parts. There's a call to adventure that can be either accepted or rejected, and there's these same story tropes that turn up again and again. But it's very, very interesting because he links a lot of it to Jungian psychoanalysis and stuff like that. That these, sort of trying to make sense of.
You can just imagine our ancestors sitting around the campfire in a cave or wherever, just telling stories. But one thing, it's about because it's very difficult to understand what those societies were like. But one story I read earlier this year was some archaeologists have found a Neanderthal burial site, and in the burial site, with all the grave goods that they would give, was a 6-year-old dance child. And it's that idea that this hunter-gatherer community worked together to look after this child,
to support someone
for 6 years, who had no prospect of being able to contribute in a sort of utilitarian way to the project of staying alive, but they wanted to care for this child, and I just think it's just just a fabulous little insight into their culture.
It's often said that the first sign of civilization in the fossil record is a mended femur.
Yeah.
But,
Well, my son-in-law's brother, who is absolutely delightful, and he's a lovely, lovely man, completely bonkers. I mean, just doesn't live in the real world. You know, he's got two gorgeous children. And he has a very hand-to-mouth existence. But he's part of a sort of, it's a sort of philosophical community where they give away, I think it's 15% of their money to various, you know, incredibly worthwhile, you know, causes. So, you know, those who have nothing give away, you know, the widow's mite and all that. But he's at heart, he's an anthropologist. He got a master's and then went into teaching because he had to get a good degree. But anyway, he and a friend did a meta-analysis of all the data of human bodies from before the agricultural revolution, because there's been lots and lots of studies that cross the agricultural revolution boundary to find out in what sort of way they die. And, you know, because there was this theory amongst the American, my brain's gone, a famous American sort of anthropologist, you know, that life was nasty, brutish and short. And that a huge number of bodies that remains showed evidence of violent deaths. And Phil, by focusing on before the agricultural revolution, established that actually not as many as were thought died violent deaths.
Right.
You know, because you're only talking maybe 20,000 skeletons across the whole world that have been found. So, but he just looked at all you know, by looking at all the data. So they didn't do the original research, but they just looked at all the publications on these bodies. It's quite, you know, I just find it rather, you know, affirming that actually we weren't as nasty as all that all the time.
Absolutely.
And that I think there was probably something about that agricultural revolution, settled communities which created hierarchies, which created rulers and created priestly cults, and those who had and those who didn't have.
Yeah.
And it just completely changed the nature of human relationships. Because if we've all got an image of what a hunter-gatherer community would be like, very egalitarian.
No, absolutely. I was rereading my Bronowski the other day, The Ascent of Man, thing. And it's just some of his ideas are wonderful because he interprets the New Testament, sorry, the Old Testament, as the story of nomadic people learning to stay in one place and going, well, we need a completely different set of rules if we're going to do this because none of the old stuff really works anymore.
Yeah, and sibling rivalry, suddenly, you know, ownership and inheritance becomes huge.
Yeah, how do you work all that out?
James, would you mind just doing the camera?
Oh, palette, yes.
Well, see, because I think I'm probably a little bit older than you.
Oh.
I can remember The Ascent of Man was one
Probably.
was one of the first. Was one of the, you know, one of those sort of.
Desperately hanging on to my youth. Carry on.
It's
not working.
Yeah, you didn't watch The Ascent of Man live when it first came out in 1971.
No.
And I can remember that. I can remember, you know, it was one of those seismic shifts that suddenly, you know, growing up and learning an enormous amount about being human.
Yeah.
And the image that absolutely haunts me. And I mean, it's the classic one.
Oh, when he was stood outside
In Auschwitz with you know, praying the bowels of Christ.
He was just
you may be
in the
wrong.
mud.
Yeah. And they say that how his family members had died there. And it was just, you know, just that I can remember watching that as a 13, 14-year-old boy and so when I went to Auschwitz, I went up to that, the pool.
Right.
And just remembered how I felt, you know, listening to him.
Yeah. That was so powerful.
Yeah.
Because he was so dry the rest of the time
Yeah,
with everything else. He was just completely academic about it all. Because that was the style of the time, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it's how, you know, the bowels of Christ, pray that you might be wrong. You know, and that's just you know, it's that thing about, you know, certain, I suppose my distrust of certain probably goes back to that.
But yeah, that idea of sort of the tribes of Israel stories actually being, because if you think that the first writing would have been from the first communities that actually stayed in one place. That was one of the benefits, was an external memory that you couldn't have had before then. And I find that kind of interesting. How many generations of nomadic humans just wandered around and never had the time to write anything down.
Well, they didn't need to, and but they would have had a huge number of stories. It's like in the First Nations stories in America, in Australia, they can go back, they can tell oral stories back into history to times when they can date it from geological events. When that mountain exploded.
Yeah.
And they've got stories around the explosion of that mountain. And they know that mountain exploded 20,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And they've got stories linking themselves back to that event.
Okay, I'm getting some extra colour in here.
Is my face really that red?
In places. No, that's it's going to lighten.
It's that's it. But my brother, he's mad. He attacked. They had a huge clump of hogweed, giant hogweed in the garden, and he attacked it with no gloves. And he got it on his face and his hands. And honestly, it looked like he put his hand in boiling water. Just peeling for weeks and weeks, and on his face. And his face is that sort of colour. Literally, it's that colour. And his hands are that colour. And it just don't attack hogweed.
Right, I'm going to get a few lads in, and we'll stop for a little break.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're at about 8 o'clock now, so
Oh, that's good timing.
perfect timing.
So, do this, but there's just a few bits and pieces. Subtle, I think the surface there.
The other peculiarity I have is I have absolutely no sense of rhythm. And I can establish how little rhythm I have is when you get licensed to a new parish, you're introduced to there's a whole sort of ritual, and you're introduced and you're led around the various places in the church that represent your ministry. So the altar, the pulpit, the lectern, the font, the door, and calling the people to worship by ringing the bell. And I've happened twice, and you go to the bell and you toll it. And just not ringing it like a bell ring, but just tolling it. And both times, the tower captain said, "No, we can't," because it was just I couldn't get a rhythmic dinging and donging. It would just be just chaotic. And so I would pull the rope, and they disconnected it, and there would be somebody upstairs in the bell chamber. So as they saw the rope pulling, they then tolled the bell.
Also, like in Singing in the Rain, where she's lip syncing for the actress.
Oh, and it comes, yeah.
At the end, they pull the curtain up.
Yeah, well, luckily the curtain was not pulled up in this occasion, but yeah. But I can't toll the bell. It's just.
Speaking of which, there we go. Yeah, Abby go.
I remember talking to Alexander about just the effect of seeing the Abbey flying the Pride flag.
That was beautiful.
He just said that was just transformative.
The amount of effort that took going up the chain of command within.
The bizarre thing is the people who actually run the place are, they're clearly not anti or judgmental.
Well, Martin, the vicar, is. The only reason, however, it arrived at his desk.
Yeah.
It's only because he was very supportive of that whole way.
The only thing stopping people is the idea of someone else who might get upset.
Oh,
If that thing, people really take offence on
yeah,
their
but
own.
it took courage from Martin to actually say, "Yeah, we're going to do that." It's
Yeah, I've got to the stage now where I can tell when you need to stop for a little bit.
Shut up. What do you know?
I'm just getting in here.
So how many of you sat in on?
He's getting above his station now. It's probably about time I took a break.
How many of you sat in on?
How many have I sat in on? It's been
Uncountable, unfathomable.
4 months, I think. 4 months worth, and the odd Monday off, but
And what's going to happen?
It all gets burned in the skin. No, I'm not talking it might well.
so the Talking Heads of Sherborne that you're participating in at the moment, that will we're going to get to the stage we've got maybe 25, 30, and then do an exhibition of the Talking Heads of Sherborne.
Shall we have a time lapse?
I think we should have a time lapse. We will be back in 10 minutes or so. Good, just good one.
such an anorak. I'm obsessed about recording. You know, I've got books of all my runs from the 90s. I've got all my bike rides recorded on Strava, downloaded. I've got, you know, and I always used to ride on the bike. I used to try to do 5,000 miles a year. And now I'm
Don't leave it till December.
what? Yeah. Yeah, no. And this year I'm trying to walk 2,000 miles. 40 miles short. Well, you know, but I've got 8 weeks to go. So I've practiced. I've got it in hand.
I don't know how many clocks are whiteboards that I think it was yesterday that actually did it. It's like pretty sure Bon Jovi is at least 3/4 there now. Halfway there.
Oh right, sorry, okay.
Yeah. Where are you going with this one then, James?
I'm going to lighten everything.
Start again.
Yeah,
We haven't had the spatula.
easy. We'll get to the spatula time. So, well, I was just thinking about the spatula.
Oh, that's dangerous.
We're not spatula madness yet. And actually, what's really interesting is Joe's forehead. All of his expressions in his forehead.
Did I not say that to you?
Well, do you know, funny enough, this morning I've lost my passport and I had to apply for a new one. And I was having to take the photograph. And you know, you've got to find a wall. The first wall I sat against, they said the light was too uneven. And eventually I found a wall and I was sitting with pictures and stuff. And they kept saying, no, we won't have it, your eyes are closed. Yeah. And I mean, I was just sitting there looking, and then, you know, so eventually the one that had got accepted, I'm literally putting my eyes as wide open as I can, which means the face looks rather odd. and the great mate who had to verify it for me said, if they hadn't had your name on it, I wouldn't have thought it, I wouldn't have guessed it was you.
Which is great for a passport photo, isn't it?
I literally, I'm trying to open my eyes wide.
I am quite pleased though, because did I not say that to you when James left? And I'm
Feel vindicated.
I'm picking stuff up. This is brilliant. I'm learning.
Things to look for. Well, the interesting thing about painting is that you don't so much have to look for this stuff, but it announces itself. It's just slowing down and doing little enough that these things reveal themselves to you.
And also know when to stop.
Oh, I still haven't got the hang of that. Very interesting.
What I really like when you come into the shop, Joe, is the many. You've always got a story, which I think is fantastic. It's brilliant. It's lots of fun, and the limericks, rhymes, and little stories we tell. I'm not going to ask you to repeat any of them. I don't think the listenership would appreciate. But it's always good fun, and there's always really intriguing and interesting conversations when you come in particular when you do sit down with either James or with Alexander. I take a very back seat in those conversations because it's just fascinating to listen to. And
well, Alexander's got lots as well. I mean, I love, you know, I just love hearing, you know, love to hear more of his life in New York because, you know, there are these two sides of his character. You know, there's the very, very focused, mathematical, serious, you know, analyst for big, huge merchant banks doing that very technical stuff. But then there's the very, you know, he loves acting, drama, shit, you know, that you know, the two sides. And of course, being just the ups and downs of gay life in New York. Which I find, particularly now I've got a nephew with whom I'm immensely fond, who is an exam position. He's got this very, very strange, very technical job in finance, journalism, and being an expert in, in this tiny area of finance. Nobody in the family understands what the hell he does. And his partner genuinely works in musical theatre off Broadway.
Wow.
So, he's got this world where he does this. And you can pull up YouTube footage of Hugh chairing conferences with hundreds of people in the hall who paid tens of thousands of dollars to hear him sort of extract wisdom from, he interviews people and whatever, extracting wisdom from people. That's James, He spent the first 7 years of his life wishing he was Snow White. I mean, genuinely, he would dress as Snow White. He would only paint Snow White. We would watch Snow White on the telly the whole time. And then, we as adults, we were watching him grow up and thinking, well, is he, in nature, nurture, what, with no sort of, axe to grind, but just, is he gay or isn't he? And he went, so through his teen years, he presented as not being gay. And then it became, then we thought he probably was, but he kept, and now he is.
Got to keep people guessing.
Yeah. But I told you about my mum, didn't I? But the first, I was with my mum, he only officially came out to his parents' peer group, and therefore his granny, when he was about 26, 27. And I was with my mum when she got the phone call from my sister saying that, that Hugh has come out. And Mum put the phone down and she looked at me with a big smile on her face and said, "Oh, James has come out. Hugh's come out. At last he could be himself." And I just thought, for a 92-year-old woman to come up with that, it's just the instant reaction. And then at her funeral, because she was known, she's been known in the family as the Ayatollah forever, because she's just, she was a very formidable woman, but with a heart of gold, an absolutely wicked sense of humour. And so we were looking for we wanted something to reflect that. And so, have you ever come across a book called Cooking with Fernand Branca, which is a very funny piss take on all those A Year in Provence type books, about Brits going to Italy or France, and and so it's just taking the piss out of it. And the book is interspersed with recipes. And so the good people of Bedminster last Tuesday heard my sister just talking them through a recipe for otter with lobster sauce, decorated with carefully arranged thrush eggs. It's just sort of surreal, but it's just the narrative that went with it, with all the language of that sort of, getting into sort of Tuscan cooking. So that was in memory of my mum, Cooking with Fernand Branca. She just loved it. And it came out 20 odd years ago, and she was always giving it to her friends and family. You've got to read this book, it's just
But Steve Henderson messaged James and he said, "Looks great now. 45 minutes left for fiddling?" ?
Yes, exactly.
He knows you well, does he?
He does.
But Pharrell Williams, fascinating, because he's made a biographical movie of his life with Lego.
Really? That's a very good choice of.
It's fascinating, and you talk about it, because he's produced. I mean, a bit like Quincy Jones, he's worked with everybody.
Quincy Jones is dying.
Yeah, that's why he came to mind. So,
I've heard in the music industry, if Pharrell Williams sort of messages and says, "I want to work with you," everything else stops.
Yeah. I mean, he's just obviously just the most musical man. But anyway, he said they never told any of the people who were going to participate in it. They just said it's going to be an animated film of my life. And so they had Snoop Dogg and they had all these people, doing their bit. But he said we didn't tell them it was going to be Lego, because if they'd known it was Lego, it would have affected how if they just thought they were going to be a cartoon, they'd be much more natural. And so you got Snoop Dogg being Snoop Dogg, but with a Lego.
That's brilliant. I mean, did you ever see the Snoop Dogg and is it Kevin Hart commentating on dressage
At the Olympics.
Yeah. Phenomenal. Just so funny.
But they had a photograph of Snoop Dogg carrying the Olympic torch. And I think it was Hugh Bonneville said, "Is that a bomb?" But then, because I do like Graham Norton, because he gets people to sort of relax, and so they, all drunk.
Yeah, I was going to say it's either Graham Norton or the couple of bottles of wine they had beforehand.
And Billy Crystal's uncle was a record producer, and he produced Strange Fruit and Rock Around the Clock. And that is, so the breadth of.
Are you familiar with the story of Strange Fruit?
No.
It was a very powerful song about the reality of lynchings in the Deep South during slavery. Billie Holiday sang it, and there was all manner of controversy and upheaval whenever someone was trying to play it on the radio, but it had a really powerful role to play.
Strange Fruit hanging up the poplar trees, it's just,
So in the civil rights movement, it was sort of quite a big.
I know. It's just an amazing thing, extraordinary.
So that's quite a combination, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's just incredible. Yeah, that's my uncle.
That and Bill Haley.
So how do you fill the majority of your time these days, then, Jay?
Walking the dog.
Getting your steps in so that you can do the 2,000 miles.
Yeah, my steps in. Yeah, it works out at 5.5 miles a day.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got some days you've got to get it further. But I just love it. I've got. I love listening to podcasts, because people say, "But do you want to be out in the country and listen to all that?" I think, yeah, but part of the problem, I fought the black dog all my life, and at the last time, I used to. One of the solutions to the black dog was to go out on the bicycle for hours and hours and hours, and I just, it would sort me out. But the last big attack, I can't bear being on my own. If I'm left to my own with my own thoughts, it's not that happy space where I can rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
And so I need to have. So I listen to podcasts and audiobooks, and it's just fantastic. I finished The Big Sleep by Raymond Chandler last night. What a good book that is. Just that sort of hard bit, to actually go. We're all familiar with the sort of, the movies and Robert Mitchum and the whole thing, but actually to go back to, as it were, to the source material of the book. And the quirky thing about Raymond Chandler is he went to the same school in South London as P.G. Wodehouse. Two completely different. This Englishman goes to New York, goes to California and writes the archetype of hard bit. you know, all the phrasing. It's just, it's there in the book that we then see it. You know, we used to see in the movies. It was fantastic.
So the podcasts and audiobooks is then you not being on your own.
I still get them. Science, which is what I need. You know, I love, you know, they're my trees.
Yeah,
I love my, I mean, I really love my trees. You know, I spend a lot of time standing in front of them, looking at them, taking the picture, and then just sort of enjoying the treeness of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because one's in a hedgerow and one's in a field.
So whereabouts is it that you live then? Because it's not in Sherborne, is it?
Do you know Sturton, Cornwall?
Yes.
The, the Trooper.
Mm-hmm.
Or just up the hill from the
Oh, I
Trooper,
see. Okay.
next to the church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some really lovely walks around.
That's the walking into Sherborne is fantastic. From there, because you go across then you go into the park, and you walk straight across the park and come out by the garden centre. Very beetroot, aren't they?
Now it's partly the camera. It's partly the mood as well. But it's not. It'll make sense in the end.
No, I'm sure it will.
Yeah, also the sitting from here, I have the advantage of seeing the actual painting. The camera picks up certain lights more than others. So.
Well, it's a very pleasant way of spending a Monday evening.
What made you move to this area?
Well, I've always lived. I mean, I grew up here.
Okay.
I grew up down the A37. Do you know where the Albert? I always want to call it the Albert, the Albert George.
Yes. Yeah.
And you know, there's the go-karts and the clay. There was the clay pitching, and there's also a sort of a vintage centre.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the vintage centre used to be a Chancellor Cafe that my mum used to run.
Ah.
And there was, you know, there's the remains of a petrol station as well.
Yes. Yeah.
She used to run the petrol station.
But didn't there used to be a nightclub up there as well at some point?
There had, yeah, in the cafe there was it went through a phase of having a nightclub. Not at her time.
No.
That was quite a long time. So she had that, and I grew up just underneath it.
Because with when I left school, I was a Thatcher, and like all around there was my sort of or the patch that we worked in. So yeah, I know that area relatively well.
My first ever job, age 16, was at the forestry on the Melbourne estate for the princely sum of 19.5p an hour.
Why did you stay?
Yeah, I mean, it was unbelievably hard. I mean, you know, I know it's my first job, but it was very physical work.
That's about what I earned from doing this.
And at the end of it, I had 28 quid, and I took myself to the Edinburgh Festival. Yeah. 3 days at the Edinburgh Festival back then. It was fantastic. And I was staying in a hostel that was in the engineering workshop at the university, and they were triple level banks, and I was on the top level. And you know those big sort of rails they have with all the chains for lifting engines out.
Yes, yeah.
That was right above my head.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I thought it was triple bunk. Your nose would be on the ceiling, wouldn't it?
Yeah. It was fantastic.
So do you manage to get back to the Edinburgh Fringe? Have you?
We tried to go back again. Both our kids were they were on an outdoor outward bandy sort of activity holiday on a Scottish island, and they were going to be there for a week, and we were going to go to Edinburgh and stay with Joe's cousin who lives in Edinburgh, and basically do Edinburgh and go to the festival. However, day one we got run up by the the centre to say, "I'm sorry, can you come and collect your daughter? She's we think she might have broken her knee."
Oh goodness.
It was like this, so she couldn't walk or anything. So the whole plan was changed because she was sort of 12. So there was sort of there needed to be some child money. So we took it in turn. We were staying with Joe's cousin. Francis had a leg up. We could go off individually to do things, which Charlotte took the edge off. Then it was crazy. It was his adventure holiday, and we went to collect Roland. And on the last night, just before the sort of the awards ceremony, they had a big trampoline off it and broke his arm. So we collected both of them in a COVID casualty, which is not bad, getting both kids in one holiday. So we didn't get the festival.
Is it just 2 kids? You have
Just 2 kids. Yeah.
Because you speak a lot of your family when you come in. It seems very broad.
Well, I'm one of 4,
Mm-hmm.
and so but there are 9 nephews. But I mean, my mum was one of 6, my dad was one of 5. So we got quite a lot.
Are you quite a close knit family as well?
The cousins. Our generation of cousins, but most of them were quite tight. And our kids are incredibly tight knit group because my mum, we lived in quite a big house, so mum could, in the holidays, the girls would go and stay there for long periods of time with all their kids. So the kids would sort of run in this sort of zoo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a zoo in West Dorset. Very just the scam they got up to. They went around one day. They were 6, 7, 8. They decided they were going to raise money for a charity. And so they went round the gardens of the village, picking flowers and making posies, and then selling them back to the houses.
Love that.
But they got a few quid, which they came back and said, "Granny, we've raised this for whatever it was." I think it might have been the hospice, which was Granny's. My mum was heavily involved in the hospice.
So it's just been a question from somebody, Anthony Galati Art on Twitch, actually. It says, "Great portrait. Does restream means this is a recording?"
No, this is live. So there you are. Hopefully the fact that I just responded to that question
Points them into the right direction.
Restream is a platform you can use to go to multiple channels at once, and without having to rely on your own upload speed to do the same thing 5 times over, if that makes sense. I only have to stream it to one platform, and they stream it to all of the others at the same high quality. Hopefully. I don't know. I don't really know how any of this stuff works. I'm probably being ripped off, but it's easier than thinking about it. So I guess that's what's happening then.
He says, "Okay, nice to see another traditional oil painter on here. There aren't many."
Oh well, yeah, we've got to support each other, haven't we? Or
Well, thank you for joining us.
hopefully, get to see some of your stuff sometime. See what we're all up to. What it's all about.
So it is worth having Twitch.
Yeah, well, you get a different kind of engagement on Twitch.
I just remember, I'm also going to get creative. We've got our big grandchildren live in Malta, and we had a holiday. We all were on holiday together in Corfu, and Zadie, age 3, found a fur coat, just sort of opening up, and she fell in love with it. It went everywhere. So I brought it back, and she's absolutely obsessed with rainbows. And I just bought, red or Richard, if you want, the whole thing. I bought in little, there's a little model paint, and I'm going to paint a rainbow pattern. All the
Fantastic.
And when we go to Malta, I'll say, "Zadie, look, this is for you."
How old?
She's 3.
Okay.
Yeah, she's allowed to be obsessed with rainbows.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I think you're allowed to be obsessed with rainbows when you're old. So I'm fairly good.
They were
trying to figure them out.
They were over here in the in the summer, and we would drive. We pick them up at Castle Carey station, and we were driving back, and there was a big rainbow, so we had to stop and say, "Yeah, look, there's a real rainbow, real rainbow."
Did you bring them in the summer? I remember you coming in with a torch back then.
Yeah. Well, I think it was my daughter.
Okay.
So just the one. Toddler, 18 months. But she's going to have 2 under 2.
Oh, really?
Bad.
Wow.
Have one of each. I think that's probably them.
Yeah.
Drawing stamps. Whereas Rowley, the boy, he's got 2, and they've got another one up. They're also on the way.
Oh, fantastic. Gosh, congratulations to them both.
Oh, yeah. And they're both coming at the end of January, which is sort of fantastic. But it's funny how you sort of, the families sort of get the children to understand that there's a baby. So little Goldie's got this idea that mummy's got a baby, which is can't really get it, but it's something. But they've taken the little 5-year-old and the 3-year-old. So not just a baby, it's a girl baby, and they've actually she's actually named.
Oh, wow.
So they know that this is the Olympia's in there.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, what was the name?
Olympia.
Oh, wow. Beautiful name.
So we've got Rocco, Zadie, and Olympia on that side. And the other one is Marigold.
As in the gloves.
As in the gloves, absolutely. So we don't mention those. But she's known as Goldie.
Nice.
Like that. It's the name of a flower, that's why.
Yeah. So what did we give the kids for their garden this summer? Great. Rowan marigolds.
Right, I'm not going to be too fussy about tiny details for this.
You just do whatever you feel like. I mean, it's very obviously me in there. And because marigold is a colour on the, it's on the Farrow colour chart. They were laughing around and thinking that they might get the boy's name.
Oh, Mouse is back.
Element's bread. There were some that could have been perfectly reasonable. Boys, but it's just quite a funny time going through the paints, thinking, well, what about that one? It's a funny old thing when your kids name children. So I'm not a great fan of people trying to get unique names because it's sort of quite a burden. And just, but
He's making work for everyone else, isn't he?
yeah, but you don't. But then you've got to, you don't want to have the same name as everybody else.
You don't accidentally call a child Germany or something, thinking you thought of it yourself.
But so we got they're unusual, but they all fall into the realm of of names that we're familiar with. We come across Rocco's and Zadies. Absolutely. You got no control over it, and
See what she has.
no, not at all. And I'm always laughing because our daughter Frances, she's a doctor, and at the end of your medical degree, you do an elective where you go and experience a different health service for 3 months. You're encouraged to go abroad and do it just to see different ways of doing it. And a friend of Frances's was in New York, and she was calling people in. She was running a clinic or something, and she was calling people in on the from the waiting area, and she was calling for le a. And she went out and said le a, because this girl was in as L-A, and actually she was called Ladasha.
Oh,
That
gosh.
took me a moment.
Yeah, I mean, to that. I mean, I always put that is at the most extreme end of getting a unique name.
good to know they have a favourite of Santa's reindeer, though.
Yeah.
Oh,
Really. I mean, you know, but again, this thing, you just got to go with it. I just love the eccentricity and the oddity of life and choices. I mean, I'm never going to be judgmental about it, but I'm glad that my kids, you don't have a dash with that. The thing is, you pick names. You think that's quite a nice name, and it's not in the hugely common. And then by the time you get to playgroup, you were just the zeitgeist.
yeah,
Your child is one of 6.
all the Elvises from the 50s.
My sister and brother-in-law had quite an interesting time of naming their little girl, because Adam was a teacher and they could rattle off loads of different names. They just go, nope, remember that one, nope, remember that one, nope, remember that one. Which must be, fun.
Well, you always have those associations, but if you're a teacher, you can have even more. But my parents had great friends. They were American. He was academically, he was working in England for 3 years. He actually rented a cottage from us in where I grew up. And he was Austrian. And he was born in the mid-30s. And genuinely, he was named after his grandfather. He was Adolf. Known as Dolphy. But it was his grandfather. Because he was born before the Anschluss. So it wasn't Austria weren't caught up at that time. It was quite a tricky one. And then used to know an Iranian friend in London. And she had a very, very particular name that she was very proud of, because it was a family name, and it had all sorts of really all the right connotations and sort of memories and meanings in her family and culture. And she was a very formidable girl, and you really didn't want to mess with her. And you certainly didn't want to mess with her over her name, because if you did, you just got munched mercilessly. But she was called a tosser.
It's going to be too tempting to some people.
Yeah, exactly. But it sorts the sheep from the goat. Because, that's her name. Fine, take it on board. And as if she hasn't heard that joke before, because she was completely anglicised. But she wasn't going to compromise it. That was her name, and she was proud of it. You wanted to be childish, you could just get lost.
Well, it can be really tricky, because friend who's Italian. She has a son who's called James. So she sort of went for the anglicised thing. His dad was English, and he had this friend at school who I think was sort of African descent, and there was this crossover. A name that was probably a perfectly normal African name, but when it was Italian James's friend Benito, you started to wonder some similar thing. But it wasn't. It's just not the same name. It just happens to have the same syllables in it from a completely different part of the world. But then, as soon as he's got an Italian friend, suddenly Benito takes on this whole different dimension.
You've got no control, because you give your child a name, and then 3 years later it might be the most infamous child mass murderer or whatever.
Oh God, that's the thing.
You've got no control.
How many Fred Wests must have been there from the whole movie?
I thought I struggled quite a bit, because my surname is Cox, that's spelled COX. But there was a teacher that I had which was CKS. And it was brilliant in the way that he came about it. Get to get around it with students in a secondary school. Was it's fine. You can have a go at any joke that you like, but if I've heard it before, you'll get a detention. And the way that he pushed that, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And then nobody said a word about it because he was very serious about it. And it was genuinely interested if you did have a joke, but there was always that line of, I might leave this one.
I'd have taken that chance.
Yeah. You'd never have had a lunch break.
No, but it'd be totally worth it. Me too. I've changed the order of things. I'll just add a brush.
So Anthony's just piped up again. He's speaking of names. I'm in the US. Is it true that Trump means fart in the UK? It really does. It really does.
It really does. Yep.
Hopefully he's now got a smile on his face.
Hopefully, Boris Johnson amused you just as much. Yeah, it's quite common parlance.
Well, it's a very polite way of saying it. So you can that's generally what's taught to youngsters.
Yeah, well, there's the song Nelly the Elephant.
Yes.
So it's sort of the noise, traditionally the noise an elephant makes, and so that's the natural transition from that to other things that might sound like the noise an elephant makes. You know, a bit like trod on a frog or something like that.
It's just come back with that. That's pretty great considering his relationship with Putin. Pooch means fart in the US.
So we've basically got a bunch of lunatic world leaders, and the only thing they have in common is they're all euphemisms for breaking wind.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
There's be a line in there somewhere about hot air, isn't there? But
But too easy.
yeah,
Too easy, Graham.
I'll take it where I can. So the way you've captured Joe's forehead and the expression within that is amazing. And to be fair, with the talk of Trump, I'm surprised Alexander hasn't piped up again.
Yeah, well, I think at the moment we've got to keep our mouths shut about it a bit. Fascinating as it might be, it's really not our problem.
Well, it will be our problem.
Well, it's in the sense that it's everyone's
I mean, it's just unbelievable that people can be so misled.
Well, they did sort of watch the Capitol get stormed. That's the thing that's slightly bizarre, I think, to the rest of the world.
And now,
You saw what happened, right?
but now, you know, a significant number of Americans think that was a deep state setup.
Well, I don't think we can possibly know. I mean, it's. I'm sure there's just. The interesting thing. I mean, I don't know much about America, but I do know that it's mostly normal people.
Yeah, of course it is.
And the strangest ones, just like over here, the strangest ones are the loudest. And I do get a sense that I don't know. It's
I'm still looking forward to my first trip to the States.
Have you never been?
Never been. No.
Oh.
We want to do a sort of a musical pilgrimage down the sort of spine, you know, the Appalachians and down, you know, Tennessee, and then sort of down that way down to New Orleans, and sort of the music. I just think it'd be fantastic. And then not stopping at New Orleans, but going on, because I've always loved Zydeco.
Creole.
It's the sort of the Zydeco is sort of the music. Yeah. It's sort of years ago, there was a fantastic music venue in London. What's it called? I think it might be called the Venue by Victoria Station. That was part of the sort of Richard Branson empire. And you sat in sort of big horseshoe booths, and there was waitress service, and then there was a sort of area for standing and doing whatever you wanted to do. And they had some fantastic band. It was just a really, really good venue place. We saw it a couple of times. Rocking Dukes in his Cajun Twisters.
All accordion and
Yeah, just big accordion squeeze boxes. And it was just such good, wonderful, because it was a cross between French country music, blues, and it was just that real sort of synthesis. And the encore was they did Alouette because they speak French. So it was perfectly normal for them to do it. Obviously, they knew that Brits could all join in.
Yeah.
It was just
do they do the rugby song words or
no.
the good?
No. Yeah.
I went to rodeo when I was in New Orleans. Went to Baton Rouge, which is just outside, and there was a rodeo that was going on that hadn't been. It was like the first time in about 10 years that it was going on, yeah, the music afterwards was Zydeco, is that how it's pronounced?
Yeah,
It was phenomenal. Live band playing and amazing music. Really, really entertaining.
I just love that American musical tradition down that sort of that spine.
We've had some more people chatting. So Steve Henderson says, "I wonder if thesaurus could be a strong masculine posh name."
Yeah.
Like that. Anthony has piped up again. He said, "It's an extremely tense and bizarre time in the US. Our presidential election is tomorrow for most states. I would have never imagined it would be so close once again." And Alexander saying, "I'm here, but remaining quiet on this subject for once."
Well, our thoughts are with you across the pond.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And just
Because
I hope you have the same luck we seem to have fallen into with having finally a normal government for somehow. But it's still a bunch of weirdos politicians. Doesn't matter who you get. It's just strange people.
yeah, but you just got to rebalance. I mean, I'm a great believer that people can have political views across the whole spectrum until you start getting into the crazies and causing damage and harm. So I mean, I'm not a reformer,
That's the interesting thing.
and I'm not a Corbynista.
I don't think you can not have the crazies, but we're in this strange time where they get heard.
By the crazy, I mean the people who are actually going to advocate violence. And, so which I'm not a reformer, I'm not a Corbynista, but they represent a significant grouping of British political thought, and they each end has a great many people who think like that. But because I'm a sort of believer in the sort of the standard distribution curve on the political spectrum, most people are going to sit more or less in the middle. And the Corbynistas and the Reformers represent a perfectly valid constituency, but they can't represent the middle ground. And therefore, I think we've just got to accept that. I've always been a fan of proportional representation anyway, which allows the. I know there are complications.
You'd have at least one lunatic from each.
Yeah, but there are complications, but it allows the Corbynistas and for this simple way of calling labels up, which is very simplistic, but to have representation, which is very difficult in a two-party.
Yeah.
And that there ought to be a rebalancing of the parties. You need to have a slight left wing and a slight right wing party, and then the Corbynistas and the Reformers, challenging the central view. But they can't.
They should make them sit in the same bit of the bar as well, so they can learn to be civil to each other.
Well, in the old days, there used to be. I mean, believe it or not, there was do you remember Winston Churchill's grandson was called Soames?
Oh yes.
But he apparently in the House of Commons, with his partner, for swapping, they have partners, so if they're both going to be away, they both balance out. And a regular and much loved drinking companion in the bars was Dennis Skinner, the Beast of Bolso.
Right, yeah.
You know, because, yeah, they had huge differences, but they both enjoyed each other's company.
Yeah, they were doing the same job.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is you can't demonise them. You've got to, which is why I think that, you know, they want to spend millions, if not billions, refurbishing the House of Commons, because it is really in a bad way physically because of. And I think they shouldn't recreate it. They should just say, let's leave that as a museum where parliamentary democracy was invented,
Right.
and go back and follow the rest of it and have a really boring horseshoe arrangement. One where every representative can have a seat, and by looking at the speaker, you're not looking across at each other, and it's more difficult. They will become confrontational at times, but it's less likely to be confrontational the whole time, because you're not looking across at each other.
That's a good point.
And just not to try and to carry on in the House of Commons. Oh, the mother of democracy. I mean, the behaviour in there is appalling.
And all that.
And if you want to try and encourage people to behave decently across the political spectrum, don't show them the House of Commons in full cry.
Well, now we've sorted out all that, I think we can spend the rest of the day having fun.
What?
I'm just trying to finish the talk of politics.
Oh yeah, well, we can stop politics.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a. I mean,
I know.
I just a distribution code.
That's the nature of this. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Sort
And
of
I'm a great fan of having
Yeah.
the left wing voice heard and the right wing voice heard, but they can't pretend that they speak for the majority. But in the two-party state, that's what happens, and then because you lose the election, you swing more to your wing because the reason we didn't win is because we weren't true to our. So the Labour Party then elected as leaders people who weren't going to be elected by the whole country, and the Tories did the same. I mean, Blair's genius, love him or hate him, took a central left position and was able to persuade enough people to jump from the right of the centre line across to him. That was where he won his elections.
I'm signing it in violet because that's where I started it. That's the accent line, and it's a little hint at the clergyman's robes.
Oh.
Although you're Anglican, were you?
Yeah, but violet is we're not quite in Advent yet. Advent and Lent.
As he said,
So this is just about finished now. That's it.
Yeah.
ta-da.
Ta-da. Well, yeah, it's funny how putting the background in is sort of less of the thinking, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm like, can I come and have a look at the real thing?
Yeah. Good.
Oh God, it's completely different. God, it's completely different.
Yeah. Well, cameras can't do colour properly.
No, I've got it.
I think I've got something of you.
That's definitely me, isn't it?
That's fantastic.
I love it. Yeah, God, it's good. Well, thank you. What fun that was.
Oh.
But the trouble is, taking a photograph of it isn't going to show Joanna what it looks like, is it?
A photograph will be better than seeing the.
Will it?
We'll have to bring her in because it's going to be up on the Bean Shop's wall for 4
Well,
weeks.
Pussycat,
Let's have a little zoom in.
Pussycat. I'm sorry, can I get in here, please? I've got to get in here. I know you were so
Did you just
comfortable.
move the cat?
Yeah, I wanted to get in.
He
Mike.
won't let you in again.
As he says, very nice.
I was being
Oh, thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
And let's have a little zoom in.
Oh, sorry, Cam. It was in my
Cheers, he
pocket.
says, really, James.
You don't have to apologise.
Sorry, you're lovely. That looked very
Applauded
applauded.
that.
Yeah, we got you to applaud when he was rolling on the floor, so that's you can complain about anything. So yeah, that was quite fun. It was a fun place to get stuck into. So thank you for that, Joe, and for being so.
Didn't seem like today there were any sort of battles.
Yes, there were. I mean, I suppose. Yeah, it's a tricky one. Trying to get a proper photo.
No, that's all right. Yeah, that's what it's look.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You see, that's a lot lighter in its colour.
Because I've seen her name Beetroot. I mean, that is the colour my brother is. I mean, genuinely, that is his colour. Because of this hogweed thing.
Oh, poor man.
Well, that was a fascinating process. Thank you. So I'll see that up in the.
That'll be tomorrow
Tomorrow?
for the next 4 weeks because they moved down one every.
Oh,
week.
is that how it works?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Well done there. Good done. Brilliant.
We've got you chatting as well.
Yeah, well, I always talk. I'm afraid.
And I think your face looks mobile as well. You look relaxed, but you.
No, I am talking. I mean, my mind.
Oh, yeah.
I'm saying something. It's moving.
Yeah. That's the tricky thing that I'm really trying to get with a lot of these pictures. I managed to do with Alexandra as well.
Is Alexander still downstairs, or is he up here?
He's here now. I've just popped him in a gold frame. Oh, sorry. Well, I was just going to hold it here.
Oh, yeah. So, there's a touch of God, what's his name? Alan Carr.
He'll love you for saying that. That's the gold frame, but it's got a similar kind of thing. It's the moving mouth.
I mean, I know it's obviously you painting them, but there's a similar aesthetic to the portraits that you've done.
Well,
recently.
Alexander's got. I mean, I've got. I quite like the fact I'm coming out of a lighter background, whereas his, really.
It's funny, yeah. I mean, it's sometimes some can look really transient. Sometimes they can look almost like they're made of clay. It's a bit more solid, I suppose.
Well, I mean, are you happy with it?
As much as I ever am, I suppose.
But I can't believe the speed you do it at. That's what gets me. It's it's important. Because in the portrait painter of the year, they say, "Oh, you've only got 4 hours." You've done it in half the time.
Yeah. But I don't know how I'd do it if I had a load of cameras pointing at me. And yeah, camera crews and celebrities wanting to talk.
It's also massive. Sometimes they have faces that just don't.
And also, actually, sometimes it's quite good to have someone talk. You'll forgive a certain amount of inaccuracy. There's plenty of inaccuracy in this because you are sitting still at any one point. So it doesn't look like a waxwork. Hopefully, it looks like a living person. But the price of that is that it's not super accurate. It's not like a photograph.
But you see, the thing is, I've never seen myself talking,
Right.
so I don't know what my mouth would look like when I'm talking.
It looks like that.
Well, I'll have to flash it past Joanna. You know, but you when you look at yourself in the mirror,
That would be the test.
you're not talking. You know, I've only just had that light bulb moment.
I'll be very interested to know whether she thinks that's you or not. If she says no, I'll trust her judgment. But it's you to someone. Anyway, so shall we search
And Alexander, I think, was a bit annoyed that we put his portrait up again.
what? Oh, we shouldn't be.
Where he said there's lots of him swearing at the bottom there.
Right.
I thought it might
He
be
should
seeing the lovely gold frame.
No, he looks very eminent. That's
Well, I want it to look like people are thinking.
I mean, but he's got.
Alexander's a thinking man.
Yeah, he's a very, but yeah, it's a.
Anyway,
Oh, well, thank you to everyone for coming and joining in. And
if you want to view it, then it's going to be up in Bean Shop tomorrow from about midday-ish, potentially.
earlier than that.
Yeah.
Not quite that.
You're doing quite well at the moment. And it'll be up for the next 4 weeks on the wall. So,
If you time it right, you might get to meet Joe as well.
yeah.
Where's the website?
Thank you very